All right, there are 14 months to go until the general election, but today the presidential campaign is in full swing in New Hampshire. In a new poll, Bernie Sanders is now the frontrunner in the Granite State, up 11 points on former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Yesterday, Bernie Sanders explained to our Nancy Cordes why he thinks he's risen suddenly.
I think that the more people become familiar with Bernie Sanders and become familiar with the issues that we're talking about, the more support we're generating. Look, I think it's fair to say that when I began this campaign, you know, I'm a senator from a very small state. Maybe 85% of the people didn't even know who I am. But as we get out around the country and people are saying, you know, he's right, people understand that there's something wrong in America. Today we're celebrating Labor Day, when the middle class continues to disappear and almost all new income and wealth go to the top 1%. We can do better than that, and that's what our campaign is about.
Let's break this down with politics reporter for the Washington Examiner, Gabby Morrongiello. She joins us now from our D.C. bureau. Hey, Gabby.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So let me ask you, what do you make of these latest poll numbers?
Well, this is a trend that we've seen in New Hampshire before, so we need to keep that in mind. Bernie Sanders is an anti-establishment candidate in the Granite State, and back in 1999, when we saw Senator Bill Bradley run against Al Gore, the similar thing happened. You saw a surge of support early on for Bradley, and the same thing in 2003 with Howard Dean versus John Kerry. And so we're seeing this trend play out right now when you have Senator Sanders going up against Hillary Clinton. He is going to continue, I imagine, to see a surge of support, but how long he's able to sustain that is yet to be determined.
You know, it's interesting, Gabby. Clinton has said she doesn't believe her email scandal has impacted her standing, but looking at the numbers, how much of Sanders' rise you think is people voting against her versus voting for him?
Well, voters across the board, Democrat, Republican, Independent, they're sick and tired of having these establishment candidates and these corrupt political candidates. And that seems to be everything that Hillary Clinton is embodying right now. We're seeing that in polls. We're seeing these, voter characteristic lists come out where people are labeling her dishonest and untrustworthy. And I think that that is contributing to her campaign's abysmal performance lately. And she has said, you know, we're going to reset this. We're going to try and win back some of that support, but it may be too far gone. Senator Sanders seems to be on the rise in not just New Hampshire, but in Iowa also. So we should keep an eye out for that.
So, Gabby, are you saying then that what she'd been doing in the past was sort of playing the long game? You're saying she actually needs to do something now to try to rebound by the fall?
Absolutely, and that's something that her campaign has said this weekend. Look, following Labor Day, we're kicking it into full gear. We're going to reset our campaign. Hopefully, we can see her answer some more hardball questions instead of continuing to do these softball interviews where she's talking about binge watching Netflix and eating chocolate. I mean, she really needs to earn back that reputation of being somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who's honest, and somebody who would run a transparent administration as president.
Gabby, turning to the Republican side, recently you wrote about the Bush campaign's first foray into paid ads. We actually have some that we can show the viewers. Starting today, they're launching ads in Boston and New Hampshire. At this point, though, when you look at the poll numbers and you see how far back he is, do you think that's going to make a difference for him?
Well, attack ads always seem to make a difference for a candidate, either good or bad. And this is an ad that Bush has put together. It's a message that he's been touting his entire campaign so far about his reforms as governor. He's out there, he's saying, look, I'm somebody who has a record of being able to get things done. So we'll see if that resonates with voters. I really think that this is just a way for him to remain relevant in the wake of all of this Trump mania that we've seen this summer.
And speaking of Donald Trump, Gabby, now that he has signed the loyalty pledge ruling out a third-party bid, do you think that he can maintain that front-runner status going into the primaries?
Well, he's actually succeeded since signing that pledge even further than he has in the past. We just saw a Rasmussen poll out last Friday, a day after he pledged to remain loyal to the Republican Party and not to run a third-party campaign. And there was an uptick in support immediately after he signed that pledge. So it does seem that him pledging his loyalty to the GOP has, assuaged some of the concerns that voters may have, who thought that if Trump doesn't end up being the nominee, he could potentially run something that would be devastating to the Republican Party. And ruling that out has benefited him tremendously.
Gabby, I want to ask you about Ben Carson, because he also is someone who is presenting himself as a political outsider, and he's actually gaining on Trump in some key early voting states. What does that mean for Donald Trump? Because he said in the past, and I've heard him say this on the stump, that he likes Ben Carson. Ben Carson's a nice guy and his friend, and he's not going to say anything bad about him.
Right, and he's even joked about having Carson come on as a vice president, potentially. Ben Carson, what he has that Donald Trump doesn't have is substance. Right now, Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina as well are two outsiders who actually have the policies to back up their rhetoric. And that's something that we've yet to see from Donald Trump. He has come out with a position paper on immigration, but other than that, he's very vague in the solutions that he's offering. So if Carson can continue to do that, if he performs well in this next debate, and, you know, out-Trumps Trump on some of his policy standpoints, then I think that he'll continue to see a surge in the polls and perhaps even take over that front-runner status.
To be continued. All right, Gabby Morrongiello from the Washington Examiner. Gabby, thank you.
Thank you.